Welcome to the Better Together Here podcast with your hosts Devin
and Ashley,
helping you make the most of your time in New York City. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Better Together Here podcast. My name is Devin.
And my name is Ashley.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the number one NYC Sidewalk rule to never break. And you might be thinking, there's rules for the sidewalk, and we're going to tell you that yes, there are. And we're going to tell you why they matter and how it will make your experience in New York much more enjoyable and less frantic if you follow these rules and don't break them. So let's get right into it. I want to start with a comparison. So imagine you are on your morning commute, you're heading to work, you might be running slightly late and you're in a bit of a rush and you're on a road that's 40 miles an hour, single lane road. And someone is driving in front of you and out of nowhere, they slam on their brakes and just completely stop. And you luckily stop fast enough and you avoid rear-ending them, but you are furious. You're probably honking your horn, yelling a lot of expletives, and then they just sit there. And you're like, what in the world is this person doing? You would be infuriated. And you would probably try and go around them. And imagine if after this happens, you go around them and you see that they are taking a picture. Just sitting in the middle of the road, taking a picture.
I'd be so bothered.
You'd be so bothered. So in New York City, very few people have cars. There are cars on the streets. They're mostly taxis and Ubers and a few people with cars, but most people do not. And so when they are commuting to their job or to the gym or to a friend's house or to a restaurant, they're doing it on the sidewalks and on the subway. And the analogy of someone slamming on their brakes in the middle of the street while you're driving behind them just to stop and take a picture is often what happens on the sidewalks of New York City. And it makes people mad because they are commuting and they're trying to get somewhere. And we do want to clarify, we don't want this to come off as negative because at the end of the day, being in New York City, it can be overwhelming. You're trying to figure out directions. You're trying to choose where to go. There's a lot of people, a lot of noises, a lot of smells, a lot of everything. And so really our goal in this episode is we just want you to be aware of it because it can help you avoid experiences where you, I guess, just feel even more overwhelmed. Yeah,
I mean, when we were visiting New York City, one of the first times where we visited, I think we were I was looking at my phone trying to figure out where we were going, and I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. And immediately this person came around me and yelled in my face and was like, "Can you move?" And I remember feeling so dumb and so overwhelmed and really just felt oh my gosh, New Yorkers are so mean. I'm just walking here, I'm standing here and this person just came up and yelled at me. But now living in New York, I completely understood. I don't think I would scream at somebody for stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. That was definitely an overreaction on their part. However, I do realize now that would be irritating if somebody would just stop right in front of you when you're trying to get somewhere.
And them getting upset at you and saying something would be the equivalent of you being in your car and honking at someone. It's kind of the expected response if you stop in the middle of the road. And that can be what happens here. Because again, the walking in New York City, the commuting in New York City, it's just different than most other parts of America or even anywhere else in the world besides, other large cities where you are just your commute, instead of being in a car by yourself listening to a podcast, you are face to face with human beings. You're having to weave around them. You're having to interact. You're having to, share an elevator. You're having to share staircase, all those different things. So if you're walking in New York and you find yourself needing to stop, just move over to the side, kind of up against a building. Don't go in the bike path or something or in the street, but move to the side of the sidewalk and then do what you need to do. Just like you would in a car. If you, had to do something on your phone or you had to make an important phone call or, something fell and you need to grab it, you would pull to the side of the road, signal that you're going to do that, those types of things, and then you would do what you need to do. So that little simple one rule of the New York City sidewalks will save you from being potentially yelled at by New Yorkers.
And one thing that I'll add for people that haven't spent a lot of time in New York City or have maybe never been here is a lot of the times the sidewalks here are very narrow. These are not suburban sidewalks that are very wide and there's room for lots of people to go back and forth. More often than not, there's scaffolding which is horrible. But there's scaffolding a lot of the times. There's construction. There will be garbage in the middle of the street that you need to avoid. Like, if there is walking space on the sidewalk, it's usually limited. So if you're walking straight and then stop and there's only a couple, like a little bit of room on either side for people, like it gets that much more annoying because you have to like really make an effort to get around people.
And on that note, even if you're like, okay, I'm going to stop, and you were to look behind you and think, okay, there's no one behind me right now, let me stop and tie my shoe in the middle of the sidewalk, there's probably someone coming soon. They're coming from around a corner or you don't see them. So like just assume that someone will be coming from behind you and that you should move out of the way before stopping in the middle of the sidewalk, especially if it is to take a picture. That is like the one thing. And we will say, we've lived here for a few years now. I genuinely don't think New Yorkers are mean. I just think that they are in a rush. And when people get in their way, they're not down with that. So remember that.
Honestly, going off of that, it's not just the New York people that walk fast. I mean, I feel like a couple months after we first moved here, our dog Scout picked up on New Yorkers walking quickly, and now she walks at a very quick pace to the park. And if there are slower people, it's honestly like a little bit funny, but she'll kind of like aggressively weave around people and then like cut back in front of them to signify like you're walking too slow and this is the speed that we're going. It's pretty funny. Now she walks like a New Yorker.
And now we're going to give you you'll have to check it out for this episode. We're going to talk about Don Filippo. So one of the times we were at the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I was getting cranky and hungry. And I was like, we need to get some food stat. And we were kind of wandering around, didn't know exactly where to go. Rolled up to this pizza spot, Don Filippo.
It's on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, about a 10-minute walk away from the Met, so really close and accessible for a before or after Met restaurant.
And the pizza's great. Like it's really good quality pizza. What I like as well is it's kind of that small classic pizzeria where you walk in and it has the kind of like deli style where you can see different pizzas and you can just get individual slices, or you can sit down and order a whole pie or whatever it might be. Make sure if you go to also try the garlic knots. They're super, super good. So if you're going to the Met before or after, go check out Don Filippo on the Upper East Side. So that's this week's You'll Have to Check It Out segment. A couple more tips for just being on the sidewalk and navigating New York City. And, I think at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to do their best. We all kind of want to coexist and be on the same team and make sure that people can get places as efficiently as possible. Because again, at the end of the day, just like how there are lights and there's rules when you drive a car, there's kind of these unspoken rules of walking in New York. So one of those as well is to not stop at the top or bottom of stairs. So that goes for if you're at a shopping area, if you are going in or out of the subway. This is one of the big places where people make this mistake. Don't stop at the top or the bottom of the stairs, because again, a lot of the stairwells are skinny. There's not a lot of space. Sometimes there's only enough space for people to go up and down, one by one. And so if you're stopping at the bottom or the top of the stairs, you're just going to clog up that traffic and it's going to cause a backup, and people are going to have to be going around you, or they won't be able to go around you, and they're standing there waiting and they're trying to catch a subway that comes in 2 minutes, and they're going to be unhappy and they might yell at you. And again, it's like not a matter of them being mean. It's just they're looking for a little bit of that courtesy to not stop at the bottom or tops of stairs. So that's a big one. And another one, the last one that we'll say, is just to not congregate right outside of an exit. So wherever that might be, if you're going to a Broadway show or a concert or, a sporting event or even a restaurant, doors are for entering and exiting. They're not for standing in front of, because again, there's just not a lot of space. And especially at places like Broadway shows, you've got hundreds of people all coming out of one exit. And so if everyone stops at that one exit, you're just going to get a bottleneck, and then people behind you can't get out. And then it just causes kind of chaos and problems for everyone. And we don't want this to sound too negative. At the end of the day, most New Yorkers, and like I think of myself, I saw a really great comment on a Reddit thread about this topic, about people stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. And at the end of the day, like if my grandma was in New York City, she's been here before, and if she was stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, like I would not want her to get yelled at. And so I think most New Yorkers are trying to have that empathy in their mind, but at the same time, there is a level of just being a little bit aware of your surroundings and kind of these unspoken sidewalk rules of New York City, just to keep you happy, you safe, and to make sure everyone can get where they need to be in an efficient manner.
Yeah, and I would say, like, when you're walking around, now that you have gotten all these great tips, see if you see this. See if you see it play out. See if you see someone scoff or shake their head or something at somebody that's just, like, oblivious and has gotten in somebody's way. Because it doesn't bother everyone, but it bothers a lot of us.
So if you learned something, which hopefully you have, please like, subscribe, all those good things, especially on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. It's extremely helpful. If you follow us on those platforms, automatically download our episodes, engage with us in any way that you can. It helps with all those algorithms that no one really understands. But other than that, we'll catch you on the next episode.